I fell apart. I had to pick myself up, dust myself off, and start to rebuild. Who am I really with all the identities falling away? What is it that I want to become? And I was devastated, heart cut open and just bled out. I've created this. What is the medicine? And I was in so much pain that I was just like, God, help me understand. Like, I got to get out of this and I don't want to do it again. What's the lesson? God help me. All of that opened, I believe, simply because I was seeking it. I needed to understand more. I had gone through this whole life, 1.0, married and kids and all that. And since like gone through these identity losses, and now I'm in the process of like, what is it? And when I had my heart opening up and I was looking, God was just like, making it rain.
Yeah.
Here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
What do you want? How about all of them? You know, you want to have Sekhmet like choke you out in an Egyptian temple?
Yeah.
Do you want to like remember a Lakota song in a Lakota lodge? Do you want a Toltec medicine woman to say, you come with me? Like, it was just nonstop. To me, that's just available for anybody. You just got to go out there and go for it. I was set off on this beautiful journey of self-love. It all relates back to the one God, and that is within you. You are God aware. That, you know, the way I like to put it is like, you're like the fingertips of God. Like, you get to actually manifest and create with this energy. You get to be aware of this.
This stuff just never happens like you would expect it to. Generally, we have a plan about things, and when it doesn't follow the plan, we feel like it's off track. And generally what I found is I just have no fucking idea of the plan.
If it's gone exactly like you thought it was going to go, that's when you're off track, because that's all your ego. It's always going to look a little bit different when you're in line with spirit.
Dude, it makes so much sense too, because we really have no idea. And you're right, it's ego. It's like, this is what I said I was going to do, and I'm going to do this and disregard all the signs that are telling me to pivot this way and to go back. And
well, there's this fine line that we're always trying to walk in, something that I track. You still have to have a plan.
yes,
Being the manifester, being the fingertips of God, taking all of this life force energy and manipulating it into this story that you're the creator of, especially as in the masculine, as a man, like creating the plan and doing the thing, but then also at the same time having this level of surrender. It's also God's will and this divine plan. So when you strike that balance between divine masculine and feminine, you're there.
hey buddy, we're finally doing it.
I love it, man. I'm so stoked.
Yeah, and thanks for, I've had to move it around a few different times. Even this one, I moved like 4 times, same day, but yeah, thanks for...
Here for it, man. I live 5 minutes away now.
You do?
Yeah, it's so good.
Where do you don't have to say the address, but how do you...
Right off Westlake Drive.
No shit.
Yeah.
When did you all move there?
I'm like 5 minutes from you and like 2 minutes down the hill from Colin.
Oh, so yeah, you're right. Oh, dude.
4 months ago. I love it over here, man.
Yeah.
I was right by Barton Springs before, which was awesome. I was a 5-minute walk to the water. But you just cross over the lake and whole other... The way I relate it is, I used to live right in the heart of San Francisco, and you cross the Golden Gate Bridge to Marin, and like everything changed. It's like a shift in energy. Very dramatic there. Here it's the same thing. Not as dramatic, but you come across the water and the energy shifts. You're in these, it's more hills, a lot more trees, and everything quiets down. It's the best.
It's
and
interesting.
10 minutes, I'm downtown.
Yeah. And I've done that drive just a couple of times to Marin. I know what you're talking about. It's just there's it's like a whole different kind of ecosystem over there. Well, that's maybe a great place to start. You've been in Austin, you went to San Fran, and you came back.
Yeah.
I mean, fill in the blanks. Like, how did that happen?
I'd gone out there for work. I'd gotten involved in corporate wellness and started working with companies like Salesforce and LinkedIn and Lyft Rideshare, Google. It goes on.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well, so what does that look like when you go work with them?
Helping them build a culture of wellness through practice. So I was introducing, the way I got in was through diet. So how people ate, educating them on what they were eating, how food is sourced, and really getting the Diet Cokes and Doritos out of the office and bringing in clean food. But with that comes education.
Yeah.
Off of that, teaching meditation, fitness, all kinds of other wellness practices to support people in, changing their lifestyle, real time behavior change, which companies would see an ROI on, helps breed good culture. And for me, my prayer to help enliven and empower people in building, the way I like to put it is just like helping empower people to find their own healing, their own way, their own path to their own healing.
It's such an important distinction from, and I think others, and I've been there too, you're looking for other people to come in and heal you. And it is disempowering. It's all about understanding that you have it all within you. You just need some of the tools, and then you get to walk your own path. And that's beautiful.
The work environment was ideal because people are showing up to the office anyway. It's on the clock, work time. So I'm not saying change the groceries you buy at home, how you cook, what you're doing there. But here at work, it's a perk. Like it's all just being handed to you. So while you're at this lunch, hear from this local farmer as to how all of this ecosystem works.
And what was some of give me like a dramatic change. You went into, you don't have to name the company, went in and this is what their offerings were for their employees. And after you did your work, this is what you they were able to experience.
A whole new way of eating. I mean, and typical stuff, think about it. So again, the Diet Coke and Doritos are gone, but there's like healthy, fresh salads and then other kind of supplemental chips, but done in a good way, mm-hmm. right? Sparkling water instead, get the can of Coke out of, but here's a, Waterloo or whatever. Simple and small, but starts to make a difference. And Cal got countless stories of people that are like, hey, I've lost 30 pounds. I feel completely different. I'm meditating now. I want more. Yeah. That you start to kind of get those cracks. And then they're asking like, okay, well, how do I get this? How do I do that? And I want to take this practice to my family at home. It was really an empowering experience for me because I had opportunities where I was teaching like a couple thousand people at once to meditate.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, I loved it. I really loved it. I was working with a company called Garten. It came out of a Stanford incubator. Just a little backstory on my work. I was a serial entrepreneur. I started my first company when I was 21. I came from unstable family situations as a kid. And part of stabilizing for my own self was work. I need to just go earn my own money and to be able to kind of do my own thing. So I started working when I was like 12, a little catering kitchen, just like side work, cleaning up and this and that. By the time I was 15, I was working under an Italian chef and full on restaurant. Love that life, that lifestyle, the speed and the intensity of a kitchen, and became a chef. And by the time I was 21, I started my first company. I was working for nothing, mm-hmm. beans. And I would just look around and go, I can do this myself. And just did it myself and kept on doing that through multiple iterations, with a lot of success. But my spiritual path felt like this different line as my life went on.
How aware of your spiritual path were you? When did it kind of come online for you?
But the first wave was as a teenager, through a Christian church. I had gone to this thing called a happening. It was think like church camp, through an Episcopal church. And I had gone through, again, some broken family stuff. So I felt like can't trust dad, can't trust mom, not really feeling loved or held. And I went to this event, and that's really all they did, Cal, was just love you. Like you're waking up and there's scripture and notes and time in nature and all of this. And I had this, my first experience with Christ consciousness where I felt that energy come into my body and I felt fully loved. And I was like, that's the thing. And it's inside of me.
You're a teenager, you said, yeah.
Right. But I attached that to a church. Mm-hmm. So being who I am, I get back home. Fast forward like 3 or 4 months, I'm leader of the youth group.
I fucking get it.
Yeah, man. I'm like all in.
Yeah.
Like recruiting other people.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah.
This is how it's going down. And it was great. And then what happened is at this particular Episcopal church, the longtime preacher man got a promotion to be like bishop or something or other. They bring in this new younger guy who's more evangelical. Well, this is a smaller church. Half of it is a choir that really wants the old ways not to change. And the other half, like mostly the congregation, they want this new kind of evangelical stuff to happen.
Interesting that the choir kind of stayed together in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get into full on argument. And from my perspective as a kid, they divorce. They literally, like, I can remember standing in like the hall, you know, where they would have the luncheons and this and that. And all of these adults are just arguing. And then they resolve to split the church. So I was standing there again going, here's divorce, can't trust anybody, I thought this was the place for love and being all of this. And I was just like, fuck this, I'm out.
Again, us looking externally for power. Yeah.
Yeah. So I, at that point, just kind of quit on everything. And I just didn't care. You know, I really disassociated from everything. I started to drink and smoke, and
this is out of the blue. You weren't touching any of that stuff.
None of
before.
that stuff.
Yep.
And I just kind of started running with the bad crowd and just dove into like, I don't give a crap.
Mm-hmm.
And did that for, I don't know, I guess it was a few years really. But then I met my first wife, Mercy. And she was so loving and caring and really loved me. And at that point, I wasn't capable of love really at that point. I was too just shut down. But she kept kind of like chipping away. And finally I really opened up. And what happened was she got pregnant. And I had, with the way I'd grown up, I remember being 13 years old as a runaway in a field, didn't know where to go or what to do, crying and upset.
You literally ran away. And just to give a little more context, when you say broken home, it obviously means many different things, but what did it look like for you? Who had left? And
my dad had left when I was around 6. My mom was pregnant with my little sister, and it was just really a typical divorce. He'd fallen in love with another woman who turned out to be his wife till the end of his life, had 2 more boys, you know, so it all worked out perfectly. But at that time, dad doesn't care and dad's gone.
Sure.
Then not long after that, a stepfather comes into the picture, and he does not like me at all. So I was in like an abusive situation that I had to get out of. And now I'm like 12. That's when I'm running away. Then I go to my dad's to live with my dad. My dad's like, okay, I'll take you in. I go there. There's a stepmother who's never had children and now has like a disgruntled 12-year-old in the house. That was like a lot of rejection. And she just wasn't prepared to be, I have the perspective now as a grown man, but as a kid, I was like, wow, I don't belong here. So I felt, out of place and unwanted. That took me to about 15. And then my dad, his alcoholism was on the full turn up, and he got super abusive, and it was bad. It was bad. So I had to get out of that situation. So I came back for a summer to visit my mom, and my mom could see I was just wrecked. What's going on? Well, this is what's happening in the household. And she's like, you can come stay with me. Okay, cool. So I moved back. And then my dad just disowns me. He's like, we're done. I'm not going to talk to you. And we ended up going like almost 4 years without talking. So I come back. Stepdad was nice for a hot second and then not anymore. So I just had to leave. So before I even finished high school, Cal, I just lived with friends, moved in with grandma for a while. You know, it was always like, I went to 3 different elementary schools, 2 different junior highs, 3 high schools. I was always getting bounced around. So there's so many like dark stories of deep, hardcore abuse, and people have gone through so much worse. It's all really story and just how it affects you as a kid. But ultimately, I was just the oldest of a divorced couple. And I mean, my sister, I had 7 years on my sister. So I was always just like, I don't know, I felt like an inconvenience of that. Like, where's he going to go? What are we going to do with him? So I didn't really have a sense of belonging. And that's what led to, everything that we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you meet your first wife.
And then I meet Mercy, and she kept chipping away. And then with the pregnancy, I was like, okay, getting back to that runaway kid. I remember sitting in that field and going, one day I'm going to have my own family. I'm going to be able to take care of myself and them, and this will not happen. This will not happen. They will not have to deal with what it is that I'm dealing with. They're going to be loved and supported and held and all those things, even at that age. So I'd already had to do so much adulting by the time I was 18 that I felt grown up. So she got pregnant and we actually miscarried. And it was at 31 weeks.
Oh,
yeah, man, it was intense. Which was a really interesting lesson because a lot of my reckless behavior hadn't changed. And I was still just like fucking around here and there and drinking and, being a kind of stupid teenager.
Yeah.
With the loss of that baby, it was like snapped me into like, okay, if you're really doing this, then you really got to commit and do this. So for me, that was a real lesson. And I actually had a reading several years later. And without even bringing it up, she was like, oh, you have your child that's with you now. My first daughter, Mia, who's her birthday's in a couple of days. She came through once already, but then passed. And what it was her soul coming in. We received this lesson. We lost her. And then she came back through.
Wow.
So wild, right?
Wow.
So we lost the baby, like full real recommitment. It was, first it was like, oh, okay, let's get married. Let's do the right thing. You're pregnant now, that typical story. But then once we lost the baby, it was like, okay, no, are we really going to do this and commit to having a family? And we were both a full yes. So by the time I was 20, we got married at 19. And then at 20, we had Mia, my first daughter. Then boom, boom, boom. We had 2 more after that. So they're now 26, 25, and 22.
Mm.
Wild. And then my oldest daughter has 2 boys. So I'm a straight up grandpa.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
So wild.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Scared the crap out of me at first, when she was like, Dad, I'm going to have a family and we're going to have a baby. And I was like, I said till I was blue in the face, I thought I was all grown up. This isn't the way that, I don't regret anything. I love all of you. And of course I would do it all again, but it's hard when you have kids that age, again, starting my first company at 21 wasn't just because, oh, cool, I want to be an entrepreneur. It was like, I have people to feed.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out I got to hustle. So yeah, that was a powerful experience, for me. And Mercy just, again, she started to teach me how to love, and then having the children and becoming a father was that whole other, you know it now very well. Like that way that opens your heart and how you love your children. That was all there for me. Back to the spiritual piece to it. I got away from it after that church stuff and then got introduced to a lot of Eastern philosophy. And the short of that is it comes from within. Like God's really inside of you. And that resonated with me. So I was reading, the Tao, everything from that to like Deepak Chopra books and whatever I could find. But that that was a seed planted. And also just to back up a little bit, I also took LSD at 17. And that was a huge portal opener. You know, I realized for the first time, like, oh, wow, there's things outside of my perception that are very real. And there's things beyond this reality. Wow, that's amazing. But again, there comes the story with Mercy and pregnancy and becoming married. And I just pushed all that aside and just focused on family and work. So I was just very steeped into, you know, the reality of what it is to raise a family. I laugh with you and a lot of the guys that are my homies now. Like, you're looking at Joshua 2.0.
Yeah.
I did the whole thing, man. Suburbs, you know, little league coach, carpooling the kids, barbecues by the pool. Like, I did 20 years of that.
It's so wild.
It's wild, right? And loved it. You know, there was big parts of me that were just suppressed, and I didn't know that. I didn't know any better. I was just loving my kids and taking care of everybody around me, but I wasn't taking care of myself. And I just didn't even realize it, Cal, until things started to break down. So really, I went 17 years of just kind of being in motion. Loved Mercy dearly. We made great friends, great co-parents, raised our 3 kids in that stable home, loving them up, just as we intended. But we did not tend our relationship and didn't know better till it was really just too late. And when I say too late, I say too late with the tools that I had at that time, which were none.
Yeah, not many.
I would never change anything again, like I say it, but I know that if I had all the tools that I had today, things might have been different, but I didn't, and that wasn't what was meant to be. Once we started to empty nest our kids, you could feel the void between us. And that was difficult because it was like, wow, I just feel really disconnected from this woman. She feels very disconnected from me. As we were always stayed busy with the kids and everything else, that's going away. And there was just a void. That for me was really, really hard. And that was the beginning of me going through really an early midlife crisis, is the best way I know to put it. My father was dying of cancer. He was only 64. So I was going through the initiation of that, which is tough. I was selling my last company. I'd built a third-party restaurant delivery service that I'd attached to. Like, everything I'd built was always a small business that would grow. I had my own family and team within that context, and I was letting that go. And then I was starting to go through the process of divorce. So all of my identities were crashing and burning. And that just sent me spinning at first. That led to me having an affair, which was incredible in a lot of ways, because I finally, in all the ways that I was unexpressed intimately, like sexually, all of a sudden I was. And that started to just turn on all of these other things in my system, had me asking questions and desiring to learn more about myself and beginning to really express myself in all the ways, because through all of those years, I was the quiet kind of go along pleaser person. You know, I wouldn't speak up to my voice. Mercy, bless her heart, she's like, this is how it is, you know, this is what I think. And I would just go along a lot. And that's part of what wore me down over time. And I have to own that, because I at any moment I could have really spoken up and had my own voice, but I didn't know how to do that yet. So I had to go through this process of, you know, understanding my own voice. And that relationship was a big trigger. I'm a big open-hearted guy. I always have been. So I fell in love, And was then split in half because I had the love of my family and then the love of this other woman. And I did not know how to reconcile that. All I could do is just speak my truth. So I just had to come forward and say, this is what's happening. This is what I've been doing. Here are my whys. And ultimately, I was already just done emotionally with the marriage. And even though Mercy was like, no, let's like see if we can't work through this and all that, I was like, it was just like too far gone for me. So yeah, man, in that process, I had to let go, and I did. And next thing I know, I'm 37 and I'm living alone for the first time in my life. I'm dealing with all the repercussions of going through that process with my children, having to tell your kids that hard truth.
Yeah. How was that?
Oh, one of the most difficult things of my life. Still, 8 years later, I'm dealing with that.
Still,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially with my daughters. They don't know what's going on inside you, and it was really like such a mind fuck for everybody, our families and everything, because it wasn't like, oh man, this toxic relationship, like when's it going to end? They're always arguing or this and that.
Oh, sure.
We got along great. We were like very easygoing people. There was just all of this underlying trauma that we didn't know how to deal with. So we were just really shut down to each other. But from the outside looking in, everybody's like, oh, they're the perfect story.
Couple goals.
Yeah. Everybody wants a family that looks like this one. And then all of a sudden when we're like, this isn't working, we're going to separate everybody. And people were just like, couldn't even believe it. And it started to challenge their own belief systems, which was really interesting process to be in. And of course our kids were like, what, because we were that stable force as it was supposed to look in this storybook way of what we call, marriage and that whole piece. So, I think kids can ultimately feel like one side or the other, and they were really sympathizing with their mother. My daughters, my son and I are really, really close, and there was obviously healing there, but he and I were like best friends in a lot of ways. I had him so young. We did so many things together.
Yeah.
That came easier, but with the girls, it's taken time, especially with my youngest, but I'm here for it. I'll always show up and give my truth, and what they've seen in the personal growth for myself and for my previous wife is like leaps and bounds. So they can really see how rewarding it's been in so many ways, as our lives have unfolded since. So that's always there. And, Mercy was at my wedding, to Melissa.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
As were all my kids, and, I'll be with my grandsons this weekend, and like, it's all good. But there's still always little pieces that I love to show up for, Cal, because now we know how to communicate, talk about what we're really feeling. And like, there's challenging moments with that, but we're doing the work. It's not just like, let's just stuff that under the rug and pretend like this doesn't give me, I don't have feelings around something.
Yeah.
So it's been really, really good, because we've all learned how to really communicate with each other and to continue to learn and to grow.
Well, what allowed you to start to acquire some of these tools so now that you are able to show up for this?
Well, I fell apart when all that was going down, and I had to pick myself up, dust myself off, and start to rebuild. And I knew that I had to just really, really drop in spiritually and like check in with myself. What is it? Who am I really, with all the identities falling away? And what is it that I want to become? And I had lots of tools come to me. A lot of them through magic. I mean, the first thing that really helped me was sound. I went to a sound meditation and was exposed to these high frequency sounds through crystal bowls and gongs and Tibetan bowls and all of this to drop me into a meditative state. And for the first time in my life, I was in that field of awareness and found that and was like, this is I'm going all in on this. And kind of like, with the church group back then, I'm like, where do I get the tools? Where do I get the instruments? Where do I learn? So I took classes and I learned how to do all of this myself. And I got into that type of meditation. That led me into medicine assisted meditations like this. So I started to learn about the therapeutics of psychedelics and worked with those to really open myself up even more and find those deep subconscious parts of me that needed to have a voice. And those experiences started to set me on the right path to really coming into wholeness. And what I just described is just divine masculine centeredness. I, from that sound stuff, that led me to Egypt. My teacher who taught this type of sound worked in the temples and in the pyramids with those frequencies. So I went over there, had this incredible life-changing, experience with actually working with those alchemies in those temples. And it's,
yeah, what's that? Can you try to describe what that's like? Because I'm trying to picture it. It sounds amazing.
Well, let's see. I'll tell you the first experience I had there on my first trip. I'd gone to the Temple of Karnak, which is just outside of Luxor. And there's a massive, beautiful temple with pillars. And it's just, the art is extraordinary. It really just puts you in a state of awe. Our group gets led to this small chapel that's off kind of to the side of the complex. Inside of this little chapel is this black granite statue of the goddess Sekhmet. So Sekhmet is fierce, a lioness. She was the goddess of like revenge, like coming and like taking you. In the story, like her father Osiris was murdered and she wanted revenge. But through her process of revenge, she realizes that doesn't fulfill her. And then compassion comes forward through her in the arc of this story. So really she's a goddess of compassion. So I go into this small chapel. There is standing this massive granite statue of her. Many of these you'll see in museums around the world. This one in particular has not been moved in 4,000 years. It's still fully activated. So I go in and I'm actually at this point helping my teacher set up the sound because we're going to do like a sound meditation in there. So I walk in ahead of the group. I'm helping him set up. I turn around and I look at the statue, and the second I like really take it in, I feel like someone's choking me.
Come on.
No, dead serious. Like it's like a chokehold. And I was like, oh God, what's happening? It's like getting tighter and tighter. And I'm looking at the statue. And then as I'm feeling that energy, like it feels like Jedi, like, the Darth Vader, like thing. I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? I'm like in this chokehold. And then I see her eyes looking at me dead in the eyes. And then like a cat, she starts to like that prowling, like she's just pacing back and forth.
What?
Looking at me.
No.
Yeah. So this is the most, no psychedelics. Nobody dropped mushrooms in the water. This is dead sober, Cal.
Holy shit.
I see. And it's like this, two things happening at once. You see like this granite statue, but then there's this like energy that's alive. So she like a lion just starts to like pace back and forth and has her eyes like locked on me. As that's happening, the chokehold's getting tighter. Then she comes out towards me and starts to circle me like a cat. And at that point, I can't breathe. I'm just like in this chokehold, and all of this energy that I was holding inside of me, the pain and the grief and a lot of the pieces that I was still just learning to work through, it's like held inside of me in this chokehold. And then I hear this command to sit at my feet. So I sit down at the foot of the statue. And it was just like a thunderbolt is the best way of energy, just like comes through me. And I just like a release happens and I'm a flood of tears. Like all of that energy that she had was choking me with essentially just releases. And I was bawling my eyes out, feeling all of these feelings that I had been suppressing, and was just deep in that. Finally, I come to, and what I could feel was the compassion and the love. She grabbed me by the throat and really was like, feel what's inside of you, feel this, and then I'm going to help you surrender it. So I'm just bawling, crying. Meanwhile, the rest of the group comes in. They're like, okay.
Did you stub your toe?
Yeah. How are we doing here? But, and, you know, in all honesty, like as they came in, they could feel the energy of the whole thing. They came in, circled up all around it. And we had this continued profound sound
so
ceremony.
they got to experience. Oh yeah. Like, oh, come on.
Oh yeah. So, you know, over there's this whole game with temple guards and Egyptian police. And then if you have the right guides, they can get you into these spaces for prayer and meditation and all that. So it's a whole thing.
Sure.
So the guy that was guiding us, he's waiting outside, kind of standing guard, talking to the temple guards, making sure everything's cool on the outside while we're doing the thing inside the temple.
And how long are you supposed to be in there? What are you like?
An hour.
Okay.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I come out and I'd put some shades on and he's standing there. And again, this is day one. And he's like, he just looks at me and goes, how was that for you? And I just lifted up my sunglasses and he saw how I'd been, you know, I could see the tears in my eyes and, you know, how they'd puffed up and stuff. And he just gave me this like wink and a smile. He was like, yeah, now you know what it's about. That was just day one on trip one, Cal. We could be here for the whole day and I could tell you story after story like this.
No shit.
It's really incredible, the power of these temples and these spaces and the way I've come to relate to it. Cause you know, from that, I went on to, I've got all kinds of stories, man. I went on to lead tours like this myself, with my teacher. I went on to, lead tours in other sacred sites like Teotihuacan, Mexico, and others. And I was so inspired by my experience there. And what I believe it is just this set and setting. So many people have come into this space with intentions around healing and prayer that it's just, the energy is just packed in there. And the other powerful thing I found is that getting people outside of their normal day-to-day and their comfort zones and taking them on what's essentially like an adventure. You know, I tell people that come, I'm like, this isn't a vacation, it's a spiritual pilgrimage. There's things that are going to happen for you here. That's what these spaces are intended for. So you get people out, you know, like as I begin to tell that story, I'm like, I'm in this beautiful temple, all this incredible art. So you're just in this state of awe and wonder. And you're in this different environment and you're sharing with other people. And then you get into these spaces that are made for this and magic just happens. So again, that's day one. What we typically do there is a procession of temples like they did back in the day. You sail up the Nile, hitting all the different temples as you go. And then it culminates in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid.
How long is that trip?
Typically about 12 days.
Yep.
And then we'll do extensions to, like I've been to Mount Sinai, taking the same walk that Moses did, up the mountain, you know, seeing the burning bush, like all of it.
Anything magical happen on that journey?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So much of what I experienced in Egypt, I relate to as like galactic. There's a lot of different energies, a lot of God, goddess, like different things happening. The last time I did this trip actually was when I did Mount Sinai, and I'd gone through all of that process again. Beautiful healing, all kinds of magic, different kinds of spirits that come in and out. And then I got to Mount Sinai, and it's just this whole message of the one God. It all comes back to the one. And what I ended up doing actually was kind of splitting off from the group. I was felt called to really do my own thing. A lot of people are getting on camels and like taking their time. And I was like, I need to hike this mountain. I need to take the walk that Moses did. And it needs to be a solo journey.
Mm.
And they're like, okay, well, let's send a couple. There's Bedouin gypsies that are out there. So they're like, we'll have a couple Bedouin gypsies that can, kind of track you and go up with you. And I was like, okay, that works.
Oh, because you don't necessarily want to go alone.
Yeah, you don't necessarily want to go alone.
Gotcha.
So I took off. I take this walk and I just dropped deep into my own space. And I could hear Moses speaking. I could hear God speaking. And that was the message. It was, it all relates back to the one God, and that is within you. You are God aware. That, the way I like to put it is like, you're like the fingertips of God. Like you get to actually manifest and create with this energy. You get to be aware of this. And I took that message, like it just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I got to the top and I sat and went deep into a meditation. And then not long after that, a lot of the rest of the group caught up and dropped everybody into that space with sound, and everybody else within their own individual journeys came to that same thing. That's really the message there. Yeah. It's powerful, Cal. You got to go sometime.
Well, okay. So that was leading my next question. Are you have any intentions of leading a small group, carefully curated group of people? Because Peyton has been dying to go to Egypt for the past, 3, 4, 5 years. And I really want to go. I think our kids were very lukewarm on it, if I'm being generous. But even if all the magic doesn't happen, I want to go anyway. And now it's like I feel like really called to be in that experience.
The magic will happen. I remember talking to some friends who had gone on this particular journey before I went. And they're like, oh, wow, I'm really happy that you're going to do this. It's life-changing. And I was like, okay, life-changing. That's cute.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be really cool. I can't wait to see this stuff.
Yeah.
But life-changing, calm down. It's life-changing. The things that happen for you there, the codes that come in, the remembrance that happens. I've also walked down hallways in some of these chambers, and it's like full past life recall.
Ooh.
And Cal, you got to understand, I'm not the woo-woo past life guy that was always like, oh, I'm in the thing.
Looking for it.
Yeah. I was not that. I was seeking my own answers and curious to understand. And then I got over there and it's just it just comes online is the best way I know to say it. And you just have these remembrances and these knowings. We could get deep down the rabbit hole of what that really means in regards to what is a past life. Time all compresses into one thing anyway. I think you're just picking up on energy and understanding, and that we all have ties. If everything's fractal and just splits off, we get brought back into those timelines and there's remembrance. And that's what happens. And I've never, 4 trips in, I hadn't had one person that didn't have some kind of profound experience.
Oh, damn.
And the answer is yes. What I've always done in the past is whoever decides to sign up and come along.
Yeah.
But with the community that we've built and the people that are asking to go, we have an incredible group coming together, and we're going to go over there. And I'm excited to do that because, again, when I've done in the past, it's people that are still playing to get to know you a little bit.
Yep.
But it all comes together and congeals and this thing happens. But to go with soul family that already really has some deep relationship and has done some work together is going to be a whole other level.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I just broke away from it because COVID, travel shut down for a while. My last trip there was actually January of 20. It was right before. Oh no, that's right. It was right before the COVID pop off.
Yeah. So, okay. So clearly Melissa hasn't been there with you.
Nope. It's kind of funny because actually it was 19. It was January 19 was the last time I went. I just met Melissa though on my last trip, which was wild.
Wait, oh, she was on your trip.
She wasn't on the trip, but
Yeah.
we had met just weeks before.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I just love the, you both were so, certainly kind to share, but just your story is, it's funny. Boyd had spent some time with y'all and he was blown away by your story. So when we were going out to dinner, I'm like, we got to hear the story because it's fascinating, man. And this stuff just never happens like you would expect it to. And I think that's like one of the beautiful things of, we have a plan about things. And when it doesn't follow the plan, we feel like it's off track. And generally what I found is I just have no fucking idea of the plan.
Yeah.
And I just think I do.
Or you make the best plan that you can, and then you just surrender that. And then there's this level of divine will, and you trust that. It's interesting you bringing that up because I was on a call with Dr. Dan Engel just last night. And he said, if it's gone exactly like you thought it was going to go, that's when you're off track because that's all your ego. It's always going to look a little bit different when you're in line with spirit.
Dude, it makes so much sense too, because we really have no idea.
That's
we have
right.
no idea. And you're right, if imagine this is how the next year is going to play out, and if it plays out exactly like that, we just don't dream big enough. We're really kind of, pigeonhole. Is that the right word?
Or you're forcing something.
Yes.
That actually isn't it has God's will as much, right? You're like forcing this thing to look just like this, and that's going to get you in a trap.
And you're right. It's ego. It's like, this is what I said I was going to do, and I'm going to do this, and, disregard all the signs that are telling me to pivot this way and to go back. And
well, there's this fine line that we're always trying to walk in, something that I track. And that's you still have to have a plan.
Yes.
So being the manifester, being the fingertips of God, taking all of this life force energy and manipulating it into this story that you're the creator of. So like working down that line, especially as in the masculine, as a man, like creating the plan and doing the thing, but then also at the same time having this level of surrender that it's also God's will and this divine plan that you have to be loose enough to and be in the state of allowing. So to me, that's like that divine feminine piece. Like, and we all have that within ourselves, right? So when you strike that balance between divine masculine and feminine, you're there.
Yeah.
But you're always going to be tilting one way or the other. It's a constant, like when Boyd talks about tracking and stuff, like that's what I'm tracking.
Yeah.
I'm always staying on that. Where am I with that? Am I forcing things? Am I in a state of allowing and finding that? You're always going to lean one way or the other, but trying to stay on that.
Yeah. In my state of allowing, am I like too passive right now because I'm trying to be in the acceptance and it is, I think there's, I don't even know if there's really a sweet spot. We just cross over from time to time. We're like, oh, this is exactly how it's supposed to unfold. I feel like I've got enough idea about what's happening, but it's unfolding. And then, I think we tip back. It's like what we were saying before we got on, have enough structure to leave structure. So
right.
Got to have a plan, and I've tried, being kind of goal oriented in some ways. I've tried to really back off of that. And then I find like I'm just kind of fucking off.
Right.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
We need times of that too, but that's not where a lot of things happen. But if you're kind of in it and you have, it's just like picking up the signals of where you're supposed to go next. Again, it's back to tracking.
Finding that balance.
Yeah.
Tracking it. Yeah. So, to back up a little bit to what led to me meeting Melissa and the life-changing parts of Egypt. I came back and like that trip and studying the Egyptian mystery schools and those alchemies and that kind of magic led me right into Toltec magic. So I get invited down to this, to be a sound facilitator for this other group in Teo, I end up in this meeting another dear spiritual teacher of mine named Rita Rivera Fox, who was like one of the first students and actually a partner of Don Miguel Ruiz.
Come on. I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah. So I go down there like, okay, cool. I'm going to do like some sound meditation stuff for this group. I get down there first night and do this sound meditation. I'm talking to everybody. It's time to wrap up. I'm going to go to bed. And I come outside of this room, and this place is called the Dreaming House. It's right next to the pyramids at Teo. I see this fire in the distance, and there's a few people around it. And I was like, my spirit's just like, go to the fire. And I was like, I don't know that. I don't know.
Yeah, your ego's like, I don't fucking know anybody there.
There.
I don't be this weird. I don't be
here. And it's like, go to the fire.
Yes.
Well, but I should sleep. Go to the fire. I was like, okay, I'm going to the fire. I walk over to this fire, and I'm like, okay, well, they're just hanging loose, by the fire. It's a full-on Toltec fire ceremony. As I walk up, by the time I'm like from me to you, I'm like, I walked it right into it. There was no backing out. I was like, okay, wow, now I've walked into something. They are very welcoming. Like, oh, okay, yeah, please sit down. This is what we're doing. Burning away all these identities that no longer serve us. This is back when I was really going through it, Cal. So I was like,
wow.
Whoa, this is the work I've been doing for the last like year and a half. Sure, I'm in. As that starts to happen, I hear this drum beating, and it comes up behind me. And then this woman walks around to my right, this incredible, beautiful elder, and it's Rita. And she looks back at me, and she just gives me this look like, what took you so long?
Oh, dude.
And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And I sit in, I participate in this fire ceremony. It wraps up. I'm talking to Rita and giving her my story and kind of, what I've been doing. And she's like, you came here for this purpose. And I end up going through a whole Masonic Toltec initiation, walking those plazas through the elements as they're designed, as that whole pyramid complex is designed to operate.
Come on.
Just like I just walked into it.
Come on.
I come out of that experience, and another time I'll give you the long version of that.
Sure.
I come out of that experience. I come back to Austin, and I feel a call, and a guy named John Burgess, who's local here, is a pipe carrier, to go to a pipe ceremony. So I'm like, okay, let me go check this out. I go and I sit with a prayer pipe for the first time in my life.
Is this Lakota or?
It's Lakota.
Okay. Yep.
I sit in this circle and intentionally pray, really for the first time in my life. Maybe a little bit back at the church thing I did as a teen, but this was like, not the way I like to put it, is not like this hierarchical, like there's the guy up at the front that's going to tell everybody down this pyramid like what to do.
Yeah.
It's in a circle and everybody's equal.
So what's a prayer like that look like? Because it's something that I feel like keeps coming to me. I know Peyton, loves prayer. I hear you talking about it. The risk of sounding like a knucklehead, like I just don't feel like I've gotten it right, and so I don't have a connection to prayer yet.
I would say, come sit in a pipe ceremony with me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as sober as can be, that you don't even take in the tobacco. The tobacco is just puffed and offered to spirit. So this particular, like kinnikinnick and other herbs and tobacco are blended. That's packed down into this prayer pipe. And then there's certain like ceremonial things that happen, but then essentially it's just passed person to person, and they intentionally speak their prayers into that circle, into that pipe, into that tobacco. And for me, it's really, what do I need? What am I grateful for? First of all, what do I need help with? And what do I want? That's really what you go with, and what's just true in your heart, like really speaking it, like using your words as spells and verbalizing out loud in a circle, in a ceremonial way, what it is that you're grateful for, what it is that you need help with, and what it is that you want. it's okay to want things and to have those goals and to say like, this is what I'm seeking, and really laying it out there. I'd gotten really good at meditation, going within, getting really quiet. You know, it's another piece of the medicine I picked up along the way is a Vedic meditation or transcendental meditation. It's a mantra based meditation practice. So I'm like, I've got that dialed. I can go deep. But
were we talking about this the other day or was someone else telling me?
I was talking to you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great.
Very powerful practice. Yeah. Game changer for me. Speaking those prayers out loud, there's just an alchemy to it. A thing happens when you're verbalizing and putting it out in the world. That happens as you pass the pipe around. Each person takes their turn, and then the pipe carrier will fire up that bowl, and all of that tobacco through the smoke, the prayers get released to spirit. So that was an extraordinary practice that I was like, wow, this feels really, really good to me. From that, I graduated into some drum circles with the local shamanic center here. And then from there, I got invited into Sweat Lodge, which was a whole nother level of, it's like pipe ceremony times 1,000. Have you been in a Sweat Lodge?
I have.
Yeah, it's
I've done a couple Lakota.
Yeah, Lakota Sweat Lodges are extraordinarily powerful. The medicine songs that are sung.
Yeah.
The way that, you know, these, like here locally, you might not know it. Pilot's Knob is this place right by the airport, not too far away. That's a volcano, 40 million years old. Yeah.
No idea.
You go out there to this quarry and there's volcanic rock everywhere. They've been harvesting rocks for the local tribes for years and years and years. And you still go out there and it's like, they haven't even put a dent in it.
Oh, so you can actually go out there and get some. Oh, wow. Yeah. This is where you probably got them for.
That's right.
The lodge you guys built. Okay.
That's right. So,
wow.
These stones have been sitting there like for 40 million years, holding the energy that of their birth. So, and all of that knowledge and awareness and medicine. So you take those stones and you put them in the fire. And you take the wood that's collected the water and the sunlight, and it gives its life and alchemizes, and it heats these stones up to when they were born, glowing red. And then you take those into the lodge, close it down, and you start throwing water on them, and here comes the steam and all of that energy. And you're making your prayers. And there's rounds in these lodges. So you're singing certain prayer songs. You're speaking out loud your prayers as you would. The altar that's just outside of the lodge holds the prayer pipe or pipes. All that energy runs to those. It's the same kind of alchemy. When I first stepped into a Lakota lodge here in Austin, there's a guy named Jay Harry, who's a local Lakota guy. I got packed in. There was 40 people in this tiny lodge. We were like sardines in there. That door closed. The steam started to rise. You could hear the splash of that sizzle on the rocks. And I was just a little freaked out at first, but felt like, wow, I'm home somehow. He starts singing these Lakota songs and I knew the words somehow.
What?
I was just singing along.
Fuck.
One song in particular, after Jay came up to me and he was like, hey, who are you? You was in that first lodge. Yeah.
He stood out. Yeah.
Dude? Who are you? Joshua. And he's like, how did you know that song? You know, it's like, I don't know. It just started coming out of me. And he just kind of gave me this look like, oh, okay. You're one of those guys. And he's like, at first I thought you were like my lodge keeper, right-hand man, the guy that keeps the fire and all that. And then I realized like, it wasn't him. It was you singing. And he's like, where'd you come from? How do you know it? And I was like, this is my first lodge ever. It just started coming out of me.
Holy shit.
And he just gave me this look like, okay, you're coming with me. I just knew it. It was part of me. So Egyptian mystery school stuff, Toltec medicine, Lakota, like all of that parade of magic is what I call it, just started to open up for me. And in all of that, Cal, all of that opened I believe simply because I was seeking it. I was looking for, I don't even want to say answers.
No, right.
You know, I was just like, I needed to understand more. I had gone through this whole life 1.0, married and kids and all that. And then since like gone through these identity losses. And now I'm in the process of like, what is there? What is it? And let me just go find whatever comes. Let me just go find it. And when I had my heart opening up and I was looking, God was just like making it rain. Man.
Yeah.
Like, here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
Pick it.
Yeah.
What do you want? How about all of them?
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you need? You want to, you want to have Sekhmet like choke you out in an Egyptian temple?
Yeah.
Do you want to like remember a Lakota song in a Lakota lodge? Do you want a Toltec medicine woman to say, you come with me? Like, it was just nonstop. And to me, that's just available for anybody. You just got to go out there and go for it. And really, like, for me in this physical plane, in this world, like, go to places like that or find something like, just go start trying everything on. And the medicine that you need to receive from it will come. So here comes Melissa.
Yeah.
I had gotten deep into that Lakota path.
By the way, where are you in your medicine path, your, plant medicine path at this point? Let's say up until that first sweat lodge.
Really at zero. I just had one MDMA experience.
Gotcha.
And that was it. Yep. At that time, with what I'd gone through, what came with that divorce and all that life crisis stuff, was for the first time in my life, I had massive anxiety. And I couldn't smoke any pot. It would make me like crazy. Sure. It would just multiply it all. Alcohol always made me feel crappy. I was sober, like just stone cold. I wouldn't touch anything, except for that particular therapeutic experience. Mm-hmm. And I had yet to get out to the Bay. When I moved to San Francisco, that's where a lot of that was really starting to become a thing. That's when I started to get more involved.
And so let's just timeline it a little bit, because you were in Austin and you were in San Francisco for a bit and you came back to Austin. So this we're going to introduce Melissa, who's your now wife. Where were we? You were both in Austin?
No, she was actually in San Francisco.
Okay.
I had been, so to timeline it a little bit, all these experiences that I was just talking about, these magic and these different places, were happening in that 3-year period leading up to that, like that, where I met Melissa. So I had done the Egypt thing. I'd done the Mexico thing. I'd gotten involved in this Lakota path. And parallel to that, my career was changing. This is where the corporate wellness stuff started to happen. So again, serial entrepreneur, always starting my own companies. But for me, a company was the way I knew how to do it, Cal. It was a marriage. It was another marriage, a full-on commitment of like a long time. And at that point in my life, that's the last thing I wanted. I really had this sense of freedom and I could go explore and all this magic was happening. And I was like, I don't want to commit to that kind of thing. 1, 2, in the past, I always knew exactly what it was. It was like, I'm building this thing. This is what I want to do. And I'm all in.
Very clear.
Very clear. I didn't have that. I didn't have my next thing. And third, I was like, I want to go learn from people that have built things bigger than me. I want to level up and I want to understand how to get a company to like a really high level.
Gotcha.
And fourth, with what's happening with me spiritually, it's got to be in full alignment. I've got to feel really good about what it is that I'm doing in the world. And I had found this company that was doing the corporate wellness thing. And it was actually a buddy that called me. He was like, hey, it's funny. When my first little adventures off, I was called to Mount Shasta. My spirit was just like, go to Mount Shasta. I was like, okay. Went up there. I'd sold my last company. It was right on the hills of it. At that point, it was just delivery service thing I'd built. It was coast to coast. My phone was blowing up from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. It was an operation, big time. I sold it, exited, and the phone stopped ringing. The email stopped pouring in. The text stopped pinging me. And one way that I would distract always was through work. That fell away. So right when that was happening, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Mount Shasta. I went up there, turned my phone off, and just dropped in, and really was feeling so much stuff that I just suppressed. It was deep in it. I'd flown into San Francisco to get up there. My first time ever in that town. Do the thing in Mount Shasta. I come back and I've already got this feeling like there's something here for me. I really feel in alignment around these redwood trees and the ocean, and like this place is gorgeous. Like I feel there's something here for me. My buddy calls, who was a business partner in the past. He was like, dude, I found the company for you. They get in, it's all about wellness. They're teaching meditation and all this, and they get in through the guise of food service. It's like your background, and they want to build out Austin. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, who do I find? He's like, well, they're based in San Francisco. I was like, I'm standing in San Francisco, dude. He's like, are you kidding me? So I literally like jumped online, found the founder on LinkedIn, pinged him, had a conversation, and just said, planted a seed. Like, hey, if you guys are going to do this, I'm around, let's have a conversation. Then went on home. I was taking a hiatus at the time anyway. You know, I wanted to take that quiet break. 3 months later, I get a call. It's them, and they're like, "Hey, if you're interested still, we'd love to bring you on." And I was like, "Sure, let's do it." I was ready to get back to work, and built out Austin in a heartbeat. That was just easy for me, and was learning transcendental meditation with this company. They would have company retreats where we would all go meditate together. So I go to this meditation retreat with the leadership. And at that point, there was like a circle of, I don't know, a dozen of us. And I tell the CEO and the COO, who I can see they need all these other cities to be opened. They need somebody to do it. I knew I was the perfect guy because I was a unicorn. I had 20 years of business experience, but I was like a 20-year-old on the inside. I was like single, free to go wherever.
Oh yeah.
Could do whatever was needed, and was like game to do it. I was ready to keep exploring and moving and like kind of get out of Austin. And I'm looking at them, and they've got like a 7 and 8-year-old. They're trying to little league and go to the pool and, you know, have their family. And I was like, you guys don't want to do this. I'll go do it.
Yeah, I'm your guy.
I'm your guy. And they were like, really? You would do? I was like, yeah, I'm all over it. So I spent the next 17, 18 months. I was in Seattle for a month, New York for 6 weeks, Boston for 3 weeks, Denver for a month. I was just like this corporate nomad, setting up operations. And it was a great experience for me because I got to really get around and experience different cities and ways of life and all that. And in that process, I found that a lot of the cities really are, they're a little bit of a different flavor, but a lot of it's the same. There's the shopping mall, there's a cheesecake factory, there's the, you know, typical stuff. But New York was obviously very different. And San Francisco was really different. And once I got through that arc, they were like, please just come to corporate, like run all of our account, like all of our biggest accounts. We just want you to run them. Sure. So I made the choice to move to San Francisco. I was there I moved on December the 5th into my place. On December the 21st, I was already flying back to Austin. It was a full moon. It was a solstice. I'd been traveling again, right? At this point, I'd been for months just here and there. So I was only coming into Austin in pockets. And I called a good friend, and there was a sweat lodge that night. And I said, hey, buddy, come make a prayer with me. It's been a while. And, it's a full moon. It's the solstice. Let's do the thing. And he said, okay, I'm coming. I'm going to bring some friends. Bring them on. Well, one of those friends was Melissa. So, at that point in my life, Cal, I'd done a lot of seeking. I'd found a lot of answers. I'd really come into this level of balance within myself and in the knowing who I am. All this magic had really happened for me, and I was really just empowered and just feeling myself. And I came home. I get to this lodge, and I arrive, and there's a lot of this tribe. I hadn't seen them in many weeks. I've been traveling a lot, so people are just coming up and hugging me and hellos and all that. And I start to help around the lodge, and literally I tell people, I'm like, if you went to a church and there's the altar where you go and pray all the time, like Melissa just dropped. It's like she dropped out of the sky like an angel. I mean, I'm standing at the gate of this lodge, and she walks up and says hello. And I was immediately taken. I mean, she's gorgeous. And she's there to make a prayer. So I'm like, okay, I'm into you. We literally just introduce ourselves, exchange names. And an elder woman in the tribe comes up and says, hugs me. Oh, hello. How are you? It's good to see you again. And then she like looks at the both of us, takes a step back. Like, oh, I don't want to interrupt y'all. And we were like, oh, that's cute. Like we were just introducing ourselves with it. Like, oh, that's funny. We continue to talk a little bit. Another brother from the tribe comes up, gives me a hug. Hey man, it's been so long. It's good to see you again. Takes a step back and says, oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt y'all. Like people could tangibly feel the energy between us already. And, at that point I was like, wow, this is incredible. We go through the process of the lodge. We all make that prayer together. It was beautiful. Get invited to a friend's house after. We're just sharing a tea and talking. And I'm like, wow, this is great. But I literally 2 weeks ago just moved to San Francisco. And she says, I live in San Francisco. So I was like, what? Amazing. And, she is just an extraordinary woman. You know her now, Cal. I mean, Melissa is stunningly beautiful, extremely intelligent, a big open heart. She's a psychotherapist. She's a medicine-assisted psychotherapist. She helps so many. So first being around her energy, I was just like, wow, if I could just make friends with this woman and get introduced to some people in San Francisco, because all the only people I really knew were people that I worked with. Yeah. And now I'm like going to try and build some community out there. I was like, okay, great. If I could just like spend a little bit of time with her, then amazing, huge win. So holidays go on. We say, okay, well, let's link up in San Francisco, after Christmas and New Year's and all of that. And I get back to San Francisco. It's January the 5th. I just have these dates like locked in my mind of 19. And she invites me to this big, beautiful old Victorian home that's on Alamo Square, and says, hey, she's like, hey, you love sound as you've shared, you do these things in Egypt and all that. This guy is a friend is going to do a little sound meditation. Why don't you come over and we could have sound and like hang out? I was like, amazing. Perfect. I take this walk through San Francisco. I get to this house. She opens up the door. It's her. I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. It's just her and me. And then this guy that's the sound facilitator who turns out to ends up becoming a great friend. He says, hey, I've heard you've got this experience with sound and you do these journeys and all this. I've just really started to work with sound meditations. Would you just like let me facilitate a sound healing for y'all? And then you could just give me some feedback. Let me know how to go. Sounds great. Let's do it. We go upstairs into this sanctuary space. Melissa and I lay down. He starts to drop us into sound. And as this sound starts to move through us, I feel my astral body start to rise up outside of my physical body. As that's happening, I can sense Melissa's astral body coming up out of her physical body. And as the sound continues to build, I feel our astral bodies like connect and then like spiral, like think like Kundalini. Things like spiral up. And there's this deep connection, like alchemized energy that's happening between us through the like, apex of this sound journey. And then this guy does a beautiful job, settles it back down. I feel, the energy come down. Astral bodies return back into physical. We gently come out of it. And now I'm supposed to share what happened to me.
Oh, yeah.
What was your experience? And, I'm just like, truth, man, just like whatever it is. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? This was my experience and I'm just going to lay it all out. And she'll either think I'm nuts or maybe she'll actually get it. So he asks me and I just speak all of that, Cal.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's what just happened to me. And thank you for this sharing. And like, I can feel you in your divine essence as a woman. Like you're beautiful and amazing. Like, this is what my experience was. And she said, I had the same thing happen to me. And then we're both just like really in the state of awe and wonder, like, wow, this is happening. We hang out there for a while. He turns on this like movie about sound. We're laying there cuddling and really just getting to know each other more. And it's time for us to go. Finally, he's like, okay, guys, like you can get out of here now. We didn't want to leave. Yeah. And Melissa said, I don't want to leave you. Like, let's just take a walk. And I was like, okay, let's do it. I actually kind of gotten lost in San Francisco. I just moved there. I still didn't know where. I was like, maybe you can help me get home. And we walked for like 2 hours, just holding hands and talking. And it was incredible. We fell in love so fast and so furious. It's really interesting because we had like 10 days. That was a Saturday, by the way. We did that. And then I was like, let's go out to dinner like tomorrow. Cause I knew I was leaving for Egypt in like a week. So I was like, I want to see her again. And like now, like, I don't want to wait. And it was this rainy Sunday and wasn't going to happen. So it was the next day, that Monday, we saw each other and we had this incredible date. Another moment where it's literally like our first actual date. We're sitting at this dinner table talking and this and that. And the waitress comes up and I was kind of teasing her a little bit, I think. And I said, oh yeah, well, this is just our first date. And she was like, are you serious? Like you guys feel like you have been together. Like you guys are so synced. You've been together forever or something. And I was like, wow, nope, just the first date. Wow. We had that kind of shared energy.
Yeah.
Well, we had this incredible 10-day run and then I was off to Egypt. I was leading a tour over there and did that whole thing, had so much come through around her and us and like who we were to be. I could feel it, so deep in that magic and so open-hearted and just like in the state of allowing for just things to move and happen. And it was all just happening. So I did that tour and then I was back in New York, working in New York for a little bit. I got back and we were inseparable. We were together every day, like every day. That was for about 5 months. I even took her back home to Texas again, introduced her to my kids. I'd never introduced another woman to my children. It was that fast and furious.
Is that clear to you too? Yeah.
It was that clear. That went on for about 5 months and then things changed. Melissa got scared and she shut down. She really just emotionally shut down. And Cal, like, again, I was married for 18 years. I never dated, I did some out of, in those last like few years of, being single, But, my friends would always laugh and tease me because I call them like, I don't know, man, what am I doing? This is like, polyamory is a thing now. Like, how am I supposed to do this? I don't even know how to ask anybody. I was like, I did not know what I was doing. And they're calling me going, how do I change a diaper? What do I do with this kid? And they were like, dude, you did your 40s and your 20s, and now you're in your 40s trying to do your 20s.
Yes.
So I did not have the experience to understand what was happening. And I'd honestly never been just like broken up with. She was so in love, so present, so with me. It's all happening. And then all of a sudden it was like a veil came over her and she was just shut down. It was one night, she had actually had a bike accident that day. She was riding her bike through San Francisco. Somebody doored her, which will happen. Like they opened their door and she just bang, right into it.
Fuck.
She was really shaken up. She came to my place and she was just like, this is a mistake. We're not supposed to be together. X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. I'm out of here.
Oof.
And I was devastated. It felt like somebody had just like, like my energy body was just like cut. I felt like my heart cut open and just bled out is what it felt like. I'd never in my life like it was a void in my heart chakra, just gone. And I was wrecked. And she was gone. I mean, she just ghosted me really. And I was left just so hurt and confused because I didn't understand what happened. And I was set off on this beautiful journey of self-love was really what it was all about. For me, I'd come to the place in my life with all of my life's experience and everything that I'd gone through. And in my belief system, like I knew that I was not a victim. Oh, she did this to me was not my story. It was, whoa, I've manifested this in my life. I've created this. What is the medicine for me? What's my lesson? And I was in so much pain that I was just like, God, help me understand. Like, I got to get out of this and I don't want to do it again. What's the lesson? God help me. Unconditional love. Okay. Unconditional love. Well, let me just go love everybody as unconditionally as I possibly can. Everybody, everywhere. Not helping as a little bit, but not a ton. God, what? Unconditional love for yourself. For yourself. Love you. Do things for you. I've always been an exterior, like let me support and help everybody person. That's my like default. All the way back to the people pleasing stuff that like had me in this void and not understanding, big rewind. But to that point, I felt like, oh, I've done the work. I've figured it out. When Melissa first came into my life, all this magic has happened. I'm really fully centered. I'm this whole other new version of myself. And I literally was like, oh, boom, here's my reward. Won the game. Now I did Melissa. I did it. Awesome. And then this happens and it was like, wow, I'm like in more pain than I've ever been in. And I've gone through divorce and like an affair and like all this other like difficult stuff, repairing the relationships with my children, like all of this. And this woman who I was with for 5 months, and I'm like wrecked. What's going on? And I just kept hearing from Spirit, it's about unconditional love for yourself and not needing anything outside of you to stay in your own center and know that you're whole without anything else. And I set out on this journey of really understanding that. And finding the balance in myself to ultimately not feed off of a feminine force. So to me, the patriarchy, a masculine dominant world, we've all learned subconsciously, consciously, just programming, whatever you want to call it, that we'll want to just feed off of a woman is like the womb, like life force energy, and we'll just want to feed off of it. And a lot of that, again, you're not even conscious of. It just is like a natural alchemy that will start to happen. And it becomes like a crutch because, and for me, it's like it was always easy for me with, when my dad was gone early and my mom was like, there was 3 aunties and a grandma. Like I knew how to work with and be around women. That came easy for me, relationship with women and attraction and bringing them in and all of that. And I realized that there was always like, I needed that to feel whole. I had to have that next woman that was loving me and giving me love and that I was receiving. And I had to get centered and understand that I can find that energy within myself. And I did that. I really dove deep into that work, stayed hyper focused on it, and really figured out the ways to cultivate that within myself. 1, and 2, release the story that Melissa was going to come back. And that was another key piece, because part of me was like, okay, she'll figure it out. Right? Like she's had this, I started learning about attachment styles. I'm anxious attached. How, I want, like, some start separate. I'm just like, come closer. Let's talk about it. Come here.
Yeah.
And she's avoidant attached, which is like, stay away from me.
That's me too.
And it's the worst combo because when you're in a separation, she's like, the more I was like, no, come on, let's talk about it. We can fix this. We can work together. The more she's like, back off.
Oh yeah.
So hence the, like, I think that's why it worked out the way it did, where she was just like, and I'm out, So I had to just go deep within myself and understand that it was really kind of a twofold thing, because deep, deep down, I always had this sense that something was going to happen. But at the same time, I had to fully let go of that story. I had to move on with my life like I would never see her again. And people would tell you, even right out of the gate after the break, it was like, oh, well, once you just really let it go, then that allows it all to come back. And I was like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Yeah.
I did that. And I got into this place of, speaking of divine will again, and unattachment, that I was able to love myself, show up for me, find my own wholeness, and not be seeking anything outside of me. And it was interesting because once I hit that frequency, now women were like flying at me. I was like, I became this like super magnet because I was in that alignment, and it just attracts. But I wasn't in a place I still was just, I started dating here and there, but it was like, it wasn't Melissa. It was just how I felt. That still was there. And I was like, that's okay. I'm just going to keep moving, and, we'll see what happens. I don't need anything. I go on, months pass. I think it was like 9 months-ish, 8 or 9 months. And I go to Burning Man, and it's fire, man. You've burned.
Mm-hmm.
We're in it. I was supporting Playa Alchemists, which, if you're familiar, is a big pyramid.
Amazing.
Camp that I participate in.
It was 2019.
That's right.
Yeah. So Peyton and I were there, and we were actually there for the big, the gold
party.
Yeah, we were there.
Right. We talked about this.
Yeah.
So I am doing sound alchemy in the pyramid multiple times with other facilitators. I crystal grid out the place. I build this whole like energy field really with others. And we throw this party called the Gold Party. It was like also the 2030, like what would things look like in 10 years? Become as yourself with your story. We did this whole thing. And I'm in the midst of all that, throwing this epic event and standing there with two friends just outside the pyramid talking. And then all of a sudden, Melissa Lynn is just standing right in front of me. And her eyes and my eyes meet. And it was total sparks flying everywhere. She jumps in my arms. I've been looking all over the playa for you, and I'm like, oh.
Which for anybody who hasn't been to Burning Man, it's really fucking hard to run into somebody at Burning Man, but you always seem to. It's just
Playa
there's
magic.
So many people there, so much shit going on.
Oh yeah. 70,000, a 7-mile radius. And you're just randomly going wherever you go.
Yeah. And there's it's not like, oh, we're going to head to this one party. There's the 50 parties going on at all times, maybe more. That's probably an understatement, but yes.
It's really wild that she would just be right there. So she jumps in my arms. I carry her into the playa and we're just dancing, and having a great time. And we really connected that night. And I was feeling all the love that I have for her. Also feeling scared because it was like, whoa, I've done a lot of healing these last months. This is a lot. And she was like, hey, let's connect, soon, or maybe we'll run each other on the playa or after, I'd love to talk to you and see you again.
By the way, that painting behind you is from Burning Man.
Oh, I love that.
We had someone do that for us. Yeah.
I love that.
Anyway, just side note.
I love it. We've got to share some Burning Man stories too. And it's going to be a big one this year. Anyway, I didn't see her again on the playa. And I come out of it and now she's messaging me and saying, hey, let's connect, I'd love to see you. And okay, sure, let's do it. I meet up with her and I had gone through my process. I still was never really available, like I said, to other women. I was still just biding my time and really staying focused on that practice of me. She had a very different experience. She had actually met another guy and really fallen for him. And at that point was working through that she did not want to be with him anymore. And that it wasn't working out and that she needed to probably maybe move on. But she was questioning herself, am I just doing the same thing I did with you? Shutting down and all of this. So we're cultivating a new relationship, a friendship, and I'm giving her the safe space to share. She's like, is it okay for me to talk to you about this? I know this is a lot and we have our own history. And I was like, I'm fine. Go ahead.
Wow.
And for me, it was really hard.
Yeah.
But also through my belief system, I had come to this space of, again, like a magnet, and all kinds of people were showing up for me. And I was able to stay centered, zero attachment, show up, be present, do the work, really hold space with somebody. She comes in with this story and is asking these questions. And I'm like, wow, it's like the Super Bowl for this work.
Yeah.
Thank you, God. If I can stay present, have zero leaky energy, have no agenda, no subtle manipulation, which was what I used to really be good at.
Sure.
Of oh, well, if I just plant this seed or say it this way, maybe she'll steer back towards me.
Yes.
Zero energy like that. I was just fully present, talking through this stuff with her. And I just felt wow, I'm doing it. This is the ultimate test, because if I can, this woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with, have a family with, and live happily ever after with, if I can not have agenda around that and not get leaky, you can't touch me. I'm not unstoppable, baby.
Yeah.
And I did it. And later she, come back and, talk about her side of that experience. And she's like, it was the first time in my life that I was with a man that I could fully, I could feel there wasn't any, she is who she is again. Stunningly beautiful, a catch. So most men in her life always had a little angle of like, well, maybe if you come over here. And I just had none of it. And she shared, she's like, I could feel that. And that's when I just opened up to a whole other level of trust with you. I knew like something was different. I had shifted. So as much work as I had done and where I landed in round one with her, when she came back into my life, she was like, you were just like on a whole other level. So we're being friends at post Burning Man, and that's all happening. I'm holding it. And now it's Halloween and I'm flying home to Austin. There's a MAPS conference.
Yeah, I remember I was there.
So I'm going to that. I show up to the airport and who's standing there but Melissa? Same flight. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, wow. Okay. We're both there early. So I said, hey, you want to come? Like, let's just grab a drink and get something to eat before we jump on this flight and visit. Sure, let's do it. We sit down. We're just clicking as we always do, laughing and cutting it up and having a good time. And she says, well, why don't we just see if we can't sit next to each other and we can just keep talking? So I said, sure, let's do it. By now, since we've gone to eat, we're coming back, like plane's mostly boarded. It's a holiday weekend, there's baggage and people everywhere. And I walk up to the counter and I say, hey, I'd chosen this seat 22D. I wanted to see if maybe she could sit next to me. She had a cheaper ticket where there wasn't an assigned seat.
Yep.
This guy's like, get out of my face. There's no way that's happening. We're overbooked. Forget about it.
Yeah.
There's one boarding pass left on the table that he just picks up and says to her, he picks it up, hands to her, he's like, there's your boarding pass. That's all you get. It was seat 22E right next to me.
Dude.
Whoa. We both just were like, what? And she felt the spirits guiding us and with us and around us. She lost her mom. It's going on like 12 years ago now, which was really, really hard. It was a sudden death and obviously very traumatic and a big loss for her. But she's felt her mom close to her so many times in so many ways from the other side of the veil. And she actually teared up when we were in line. And she's like, I can feel this. I know this is like my mom and her magic. And like,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She's like, something's happening right now. And with that, we sat down and we're on an airplane for 3.5 straight hours. And it was another moment to really drop in. And it's funny because I had a lot of buddies, some younger guys too, that were like, oh, come on, man, you just got to play it cool and play the game. And just like, now she's back, like act like this, like, and I was like, nope, raw truth, man. That's all I'm ever going to show up with. Authenticity, integrity. Like that's how I show up. This is who I am. And on that plane flight, I was able to tell her, I said, Mel, like, I'm here for this. All I know is in my bones, in my body, I just feel like I'm supposed to show up for you. And I always will. I will show up for you. Friendship's fine. But I need you to know that I still feel the same way about you. And when you hug me, when you brush your hand on my shoulder, when you kiss me on my cheek, like I'm feeling things. I still love you that kind of a way. And just be gentle with me.
Yeah.
As we're really stepping back into this. And when I said that, she just broke into tears and she said, I've loved you really this whole time. I just didn't know how to reapproach you with that. I got distracted with this other thing, but like really it's always been about you. I couldn't stop thinking about you. And I just was afraid that what if I did the same thing again? I can't risk like drawing you back in and really going back into this. And then what if I just shut down again and hurt you all over? And I said, let me have that choice. If I choose to step back into relationship with you, then it's on me. if I'm going to really open my heart back up and we're going to do this, and that's what happens, I've got to own that because I'm the one that said yes. So let me choose that. And we were basically making out not long after that.
So good.
On the airplane. I feel sorry for the guy that was in the third seat. That was a little bit awkward.
How good did that feel?
It was incredible. It was incredible. And we still had some things to weave through in the preceding weeks. An incredible Halloween weekend back home in Austin. And that was really it, though. We were together from then on, inseparable. By the time we got to January of the next year, 20, we were moving in together. And then it was actually amazing pandemic timing for us because we were like just moving in and like really discovering more about each other. So we got through this like initiation of just being on lockdown together. And it was incredible. I mean, we were new to each other in a lot of ways. And we got to just hold up in San Francisco and do the thing together. It was wonderful to fall in love in that city and do all the things we did, especially through round one. As things progressed with the pandemic and it shut down, that city was not the place to be. So that's what ended up leading us back to Austin. We just knew that we needed to get out of there the way things were shifting, socially, politically. It was just a mess. And she had been gone from Austin for, I don't know, I think about 10 years. She was in New York for a long time, London, and then San Francisco, where what brought her out there was CIIS, which is the school where she got her degree around psychotherapy as a psychologist with psychedelics. So she had finished school. Work wasn't keeping me there anymore. That was another piece for me. Everything I'd built in that wellness play was all on campus.
Oh, shit.
So it was like all built around showing up at the big campuses and working there and having all these programs. So we went from like boom to like, we were one of those companies that were just immediately like shut down.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was rough because it was like, wow, we don't, you have contracts with all these companies, but when that news hit and nobody knows when it's ever going to open or if it ever will, they're not going to pay you. That's the last thing that, you're last on the list when it comes to that.
The very last.
They're like, yeah, sorry, contractor, no, like it's over.
Yeah.
So I didn't have work keeping me there. And Melissa had completed her stuff and now everything's like online. So we were like, let's get out of here. We're both from Austin.
It was clear that Austin was going to be the choice, or were there any other places you looked at?
One was having a hard time letting go of California. I hadn't been out there that long. It was only a few years. And I'm a big outdoorsman. So the access to redwood forests, and I mean, I was taking weekends to Yosemite and, the Pacific Ocean, and Tahoe was right there. And I was like, this is a giant playground. The way I put it is like, it's like you took a trip to Disney World and went to one park for half a day. And then you're like, and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know, but I knew we had to make a change at least for a while. She, on the other hand, had been gone a long time. She's like, I'm ready to go home. We can be closer to family. And, for me, my kids were living here and there. So it didn't really matter on that end. But I was like, well, let's just go back and get an Airbnb. I'll just put our stuff in storage. We'll try it on. And we came back fall of 20 and we weren't here 3 weeks and we're like, oh my God, this is it. We are coming home. Austin was always a thing, this beautiful little bubble with art and music and food and all the things. It's just like creative hub. What I came home to was that on blast. People were moving here in droves. So we had so much community from both coasts that we're now going to call Austin home. So the volume on all of that was turned up. Number one. Number two, coming out of California, like things were open. We had now gone months, Cal, where it was like, you didn't go outside.
Dude.
And then it's wild what that does to you psychologically if you do it if you're like confined like that for even a little while. Cause I guess it was 7 months into that.
Yeah.
That we got here and it was, we'd gone to a Soul Land Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was 50, 60 people doing yoga together and jumping in the sauna and all of this and that. And nobody's even mentioning a word about COVID or anything. And everybody's just like, enjoy doing the thing, having community. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yes. Yeah. yes.
Yeah.
So I literally like another week later, I was back in California, moving all of our, getting all of our stuff out of storage and onto a truck. And it's home since, and I don't see us going anywhere, at least anytime soon.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's, you and I met that fall in late November or mid-November or sometime in November during the men's circle we were a part of.
That's right. Yeah. Another piece to that, like that's been the number one word for me coming home is community. The people that are here, the things that are being built, there's just like this foundational thing that's happening here. Like it's really tangible. I loved the Bay Area. There's a lot of ideas floating around, a lot of big stuff, but a lot of it's just not grounded and really happening. Here, there's like some real meat on the bone.
I like that. And so, that takes us, we'll fast forward a little bit to Enthia and the work you're doing there, which I think is beautiful that, that this marrying these kind of two spaces of psychedelics and, in insurance or the medical piece to really make this affordable and safe and give access to many who just, like you and I have access to it, through our different channels, but so many people could really use these services. Maybe don't know that they're available. If they do, they just can't afford them.
Yeah, it's mostly unaffordable. It's expensive, these therapies.
It's expensive.
Because they take time.
Yeah.
So yeah, the corporate wellness thing on campus, that was all just a wash really at that point. And there was a lot of reinventing on what is this going to look like in the future if people are working here and there. And for me, in my prayer of wanting to empower people in their own healing, I was already itching to go deeper. I really got so much joy out of helping supporting changes in their diet, teaching them some meditation practice, getting them into a fitness routine. But I had since then gone through several other initiations with medicine and felt the profound changes of that. One. Two, my now wife is a psychedelic assisted therapist. So I'm seeing the profound effect that these therapies have on people just through her own stories, her own work, and the network around her. So I started to ask the question, well, how can I support this? How can I apply my business skills to this network and what's happening with psychedelics and therapy? And reached out to some friends in my network very quickly. Heard about this big missing piece, which is access. All of these companies are coming online that are drug development. Therapists are getting trained. Facilities are starting to open. But none of this is really scalable without access. So I dove deep into that, began to really study up on insurance and what that looks like, and landed on co-founding this company called Enthia, which is psychedelic assisted therapy insurance. And our whole goal is just to give safe and affordable access to as many people as possible. The breakthroughs for mental health with these therapies is really almost hard to put into words. I mean, PTSD vets is one of the leading groups where you're seeing significant change that's most vocalized, especially in a more conservative state like Texas. Mm-hmm. It's already turning. People like Rick Perry are showing up in full support of this, because you go into a room and there's 3 Navy SEALs who have done God knows what for God and country, and deal with mass amounts of trauma for 20 years since the Afghan or Iraq war. They've tried everything. Nothing's worked. They're having 3 and 4 sessions with psychedelics and they're cured. Like, you can really use that word. They are not showing signs of PTSD anymore. And that's like a 90% rate. So you're in that room and you hear the story of how their life broke down since, and they say, now I am in love with my wife again. I'm not drinking anymore. I can sleep at night. Like, they're completely changed.
Dude.
So when the power of that, I've never felt more on mission with that prayer and what it is that I'm doing. Like, my levels of motivation and the want to are off the charts because of the difference it makes for people. And this applies to any kind of trauma, even lower levels of just anxiety and depression. Sessions like this are really curing people. And again, there's never been anything like this in mental health ever. We've just not had good answers. And with most of the time, people just try to push it under the rug. So you see homeless problems and all the other things that go on around that. That's being solved. And the beauty of it is it's not an ongoing thing. It's not like, okay, well, now I need to take psychedelics ever so often for the rest of my life. We get programmed into like pharmaceuticals where it's like, oh, well, now I need to be on this antidepressant or something. No, you have 3 and 4 sessions and you're done. It really, essentially what's happening with most all of these is it's making the brain fire in a different direction. So we get these like neural pathways, right? And in our brain, and they turn into highways. We're repetitive, habitual creatures by nature. That's how we've learned to survive. But with that, with the brain, is we have repetitive thoughts. You want to be able to repeat that hunt, right? Like primally, biologically, but also there's negative thought patterns that happen around story, whatever trauma happened to you in your life. And you'll create a superhighway of repeating that energy, that thought. It'll just be on blast, right? Well, when you get into a therapeutic medicine space, those compounds will change the way the pathways run. So with the right guidance of helping to support retelling the story and understanding the whys and the whats and the hows, then people are able to reframe what happened and really tell a new story and kind of understand where it got them and why and what they can do now. So it shifts people's perspectives.
Damn. Okay, so I've got a few questions. I definitely want to hit to like some people listening now, like what are some resources where people can reach out to find these, kind of practitioners and kind of get into this work. But for what you're doing, what's your day-to-day look like? What are you as Enthea? You are going out to companies and basically trying to see if they'll approve this type of
therapy as a mental health benefit.
Gotcha.
So the first big piece of work is medical policy. So how does this actually work and what are the standards that need to be set? It is a whole new world in psychedelics when it comes to the business of it. And it's very Wild West in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. So we're tracking practices and setting a high standard of what it needs to look like, because it's not just like, oh, I'm going to take this magic pill or this psychedelic and then everything's just going to fall away. It's about the therapy and working through what it is that you need to work through. And that's just an assistant. So really looking at the amount of sessions that need to be preparatory, integration, all of that. We built that medical policy through tons of research and talking to everybody with very high level people in the medical space. With that medical policy, we then go build a provider network. So who's out there actually doing the work this way? Where are those brick and mortar clinics here? So Austin's fortunate that they've already got several coming off. There's Kuya, which has come online. Within has come online. Roots. There's a few others. Finding those clinics that are doing it the right way, checking all the boxes on that medical policy that's what they're doing, and then ones that don't or fall short, educating them and showing them like, here's what it really needs to look like to do this the right way. Building that provider network that way, and then going to the employers, which we're doing now, and saying, this is the latest and greatest in mental health. This is how to address a now fractured, company that's probably have people here and there, and that people have been under a lot of stress with everything that's happened, especially in the last few years, all these unaddressed traumas, depression, anxiety, all that. Here's a way that you can really address that when it's appropriate. And then all the tools that go on around it. So for Inthea, this is really phase one, which is psychedelic therapy, but all the integration pieces and more whole care wellness is what I intend to build this company to. So we're going to get insurance coverage for all of those pieces that are what some people call alternative medicine, but I don't think it's alternative at all. It's really whole care and it's preventative care. So no more like, now I'm going to wait till I'm actually really, really sick and have tons of issues. And then I'm going to go to an allopathic doctor and get diagnosed with whatever it is that I now have. And then I'm going to get prescribed some pharmaceutical that I'm now going to be chained to for God knows how long. Instead, it's more whole care of let's address early what your issues are. Let's talk about those baseline things again, like diet, exercise, sleep, and all of those pieces, and give people the tools to course correct and cover that. So taking that corporate wellness piece, because this is where people get their insurance, is through their work.
Yeah.
And now leveling that up to real full whole care. And in the cases where there's trauma that needs to be addressed, that creates that anxiety, that depression, those are the pieces, these therapies are available.
And you guys, so someone could go to the website and potentially find providers in their area.
That's correct.
Okay, great.
So when companies come on with us, it looks like typical insurance in that way. What we are is a third-party administrator or TPA. So think insurance light is the best, I think the easiest term to understand it. So like you would have dental or vision. Well, now you have this mental health benefit that's provided, and you can go get the care that you need for you or your family. It's moving and it's moving quickly. The demand is really high. People that are interested to learn more, you can go to inthea.com. You can also go to maps.org. They have a ton of information there. That's the leading organization that has Rick Doblin and the work that he's done there has led the way in getting the stigma away from, a lot of that came through the drug war. Psychedelics, when they initially came online, were about this work. That's where MDMA came from. That's what LSD was about. And then it took off into this whole other cultural thing. And there was a culture war and all these other stories that, for another day. But now it's like really reestablishing what this is for. And with the right set and setting, the power of the work that it can do. So that's a lot of what my work is the way I like to put it is building the roads, right? So once these things get legalized and come fully on board, MDMA will by the end of 2023.
Wow.
Psilocybin's going state by state, similar to cannabis. So there's already in Oregon just passed a law. So psilocybin therapy is available there now. And the race now is we need the therapists that are trained and capable of providing the kind of care that's needed with this, and the facilities to have the right set and setting. That's where we come in. We're vetting and finding those facilities and therapists. So when these drugs come online, there's places for them to go so people can receive the care.
Dude, it's amazing work. And as you know, and you had mentioned UT is doing, they have their Center for Psychedelic Research and Therapy. Yeah, which, Peyton and I hosted a thing the other night, which was amazing to just kind of open up to what it could look like. And I just love that UT, the Dell Medical Center is a part of that. I was a bit surprised. I learned a year ago when we hosted Rick Doblin here and you and Melissa were here, that they'd been doing this. And so to host this gathering was really awesome, and excited to see what they do and just other ways that, us and the community can support their work.
Yeah. What Dr. Nemiroff is building there is amazing. The team, Gabby Poehler and on all the rest, Paul Barnhart, who is here as well, is a huge supporter, and it's going to save lives, and it's going to repair families and people. Mental health is such a subtle, when it's a physical thing, it's so easily seen, but mental health disorder, so much of it's just behind closed doors, and people have not found answers. We know that it works, and more data is coming online every day. That's another big piece of our business, is really collecting the data as people start to process through these therapies. But Dr. Nemiroff and the team at UT Dell, they are diving straight into really finding what works and where. So if there's a menu of psychedelics, let's say it's MDMA or psilocybin or ibogaine or DMT or whatever, like where would that be appropriate? Or is it appropriate at all?
Yeah.
Because some people might not even need that. And that's another thing that's starting to happen in this world is, there's a lot of science behind the molecules, and like, can we shorten, if there's a hangover from a certain experience, can you knock that off? Can you shorten the experience from a 5-hour to a 3-hour? There's a lot of movement there, and they're one of the leaders in really doing the work to figure that out. And then just to really confirm with the science behind it so that people can believe. For me, I've gone through my own personal experiences. You could call me a psychonaut because I've gone through it and I understand, but the vast majority of people don't even know what that is. What does it mean? Does it shift you forever? There's a lot of scary things through, I would say, the drug war and like the way things were shown to us. I mean, we both grew up in it. It was like, you stay the hell away from anything like that, and very valid with a lot of drugs out there. But these particular psychedelic compounds, they're not addictive, and they don't give you that kind of experience. It's something very, very different. So I'm excited about it. It's such a leading edge thing that's happening in a massive movement. And I really believe is a real key to healing everything. To me, climate, all the other pieces outside of us, the way that we treat our outer environment is going to stay the same. The way we treat each other, all the culture war stuff, all those pieces, like if we can heal from within, all the rest of it will take care of itself. So the more we can address people's traumas, the better off we're going to be.
I love it. And I love the work you're doing, and I love you too.
I love you, bro.
So thank you for coming on today.
Of course, man. It's a pleasure. I'm so happy that we made it happen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, big love, my dude.
Love you.
Love you.